Hello everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you a video hop called the Bits&Bobs Collage Diversity Event. This is a hop with 6 participants who all received the same 15 items of collage ephemera from Ina Solsbery. We were all invited to participate in this. She sent us the envelopes, and I'm showing you here all the things that I received. Then the only requirement there was that we used at least 10 pieces of these things that we were sent in a collage project of our own choice, and we were just going to use our own mediums, paints, stuff like that in addition, but no extra papers or anything like that. Everyone has exactly the same papers, and we're all picking and choosing what we're going to use. So I decided to make a mixed media canvas. This is an MDF, which is a type of pressed board canvas that I bought at the dollar store. For $1, something like this that's nice and firm and hard and easy to collage on is great. It only costs $1. It doesn't matter what's on it, whether you like it or not. You can always, of course, gesso over, which is exactly what I did in preparation for this collage. Then I picked out the pieces that I wanted to use, and I'm just kind of auditioning them onto the canvas, trying to decide which ones I want to use together. I picked some that had kind of spring colors. I'm into spring right now because I'm ready for winter to be over. It only gets to be about, 60 degrees Fahrenheit here. Most of the time is about as cold as it gets, but it's still too cold for me. I want spring. So I decided to use some of the more spring-like colors and the flower napkin. I liked the flower napkin. I'm also using some text old like dictionary. I mean, this stuff is aged dictionary paper that was in there. There's this piece of scrapbook paper that's double-sided. One side it has stripes on it in varying widths going down the paper, and then the other side has the dots. At first I thought I was going to use the dots, but then I thought that the stripes were a better contrast between the paper and the very busy flower napkin that I was going to use. I also picked a couple of the photocopied images that she sent. I didn't even seal them. I'm not sure if she must have got them actually photocopied, so they didn't run or anything. But there's also some of this spring green colored tissue, like that you would put in a package, wrapping tissue or whatever. I thought that that matched really well, and so I'm just tearing and then collaging down these pieces using some Liquitex matte gel medium. And when I get to the napkin portion of the collaging, I'm going to use some Deco Art napkin decoupage, which is a fluid that somehow has something in it that when it dries, it keeps the napkin from bubbling. So I've got my Distress Collage brush there to use to apply the medium. And excuse me, when I get ready to use the napkin, I'm cutting it out. You can see me putting air quotes, right? Cutting it out. I'm removing the portions that I don't want by applying some water using a water tank brush and then tearing away so that it has a very nice fluffy edge, doesn't make lines. When I collage, I really like to tear all my paper. I think it's more attractive that way. I think it blends together better that way. And so I tend to do that. Occasionally I will cut pieces if that's the look I'm going for. Like if I'm going for something very linear, I might cut the pieces. Or if I want specific shapes like a perfect circle, I might punch that out or cut it out. So I'm not saying that I never cut materials when I'm collaging. If I'm doing a magazine collage, I will cut out very carefully the magazine images. But most of the time I tear, and I just think it looks better. A little tip about tearing paper like this, this other piece here that is scrapbooking paper. If you tear it towards you, you get a white edge from the core of the paper. But if you tear it away from you, then you don't get the white edge. So just depending on whether you want the white edge or not is how you should tear towards you or away from you. So there's also this piece of corrugated paper fluted paper, some people call it. And I thought that would make a nice mountain. I'm kind of going for this there's a castle out in the distance, and then in the foreground there will be a closer image. So this castle was one of the things that she had photocopied and sent. There was a couple pieces of photocopy paper filled with images that you could use, pick and choose what you want. And I decided to use two of them. So the castle's going to go up on the hill. I am making sure that I cover all the way around the sides of the canvas. They are collaged as well. So this can just be hung right on the wall. You can just put a tack in the wall and hang it right up. There's no framing required or anything like that. And so I'm now applying that fluted paper on the front and adding some little extra pieces to it to make it more dimensional. I think it makes a nice mountain for the castle to sit upon. I did have to add a little bit of extra. I tore it too short, so I needed a little bit of extra piece, and then I added some more on the bottom to make it even more dimensional. So I was pretty happy with that. So I've got my mountain, I've got my field of flowers, I've got an interesting sky, and now it's starting to look like some sort of a composition. Here I am putting the fluted paper on the side. I'm making sure that all the sides have something on them that coordinates with what's on the front. Still using a combination of the Liquitex matte gel medium and then also the, for the thin papers, the decoupage napkin glue from DecoArt. So once I have my mountain built, then I'm going to set that aside to dry a little bit while I work on the other piece. Included in the package was a little tiny canvas, like a canvas board that was probably, I don't know, 2 inches by 2 inches maybe. So I'm going to work on that as well, and that's going to be kind of my focal image that's to the front. Oh, I guess I'm filling in a little bit of pieces here and there where I want some extra on the sides and on the front, where I think there needs to be extra flowers or extra something. Not quite finished, I guess. I thought I was. It's always funny when you're watching this, playing this back to yourself while doing your voiceover, that you think you got to a spot and then you haven't quite got there yet. Just weird things about editing. So there's my little mini canvas board. At first I thought it was going to be as a diamond, but I decided to make it actually a square. Also, this was a playing card that had the right colors. It has a bird on it, and I punched the bird out, but I don't really want to retain the bird. I just wanted the color because it's going to be the sun in my composition. So now I have this other piece of the photocopied material that has a little girl hugging a doll in a field, and that's going to be in the foreground of my composition. So I'm collaging that piece onto the mini canvas. And then I find this piece of lace that she sent, and I thought that would be interesting around the outside to kind of make that piece stand out. I'm also going to put it on some foam tape so that it does physically stand out from the other canvas to finish my composition. So I'm adding some of the same collage ephemera, the green tissue and some of the napkin flowers onto this, and then I'm going to finish the sky. Eventually I decide to finish the sky with that same striped paper so that it all blends together. It's all part of the same composition. It's all the same colors, the same shapes, but yet it is two separate canvases stuck together. So that's just how you can create cohesion between multiple things. You could even make like a triptych and do 3 pieces that all go together as long as you're using the same materials to collage them. So I guess I'm thinking about it. I decide that what I need is a creek or a river or whatever you want to call it, some type of a stream coming down the mountain just to make it a little bit more interest with some dimension. And this is some cheesecloth that was included in the package, and I'm just cutting it to size and then again gluing it on with the Liquitex matte gel medium. I'm also adding 3 little pieces of the same cheesecloth in the sky to make some fluffy little clouds. And cheesecloth is interesting. It makes an interesting textural surface. It looks kind of wispy, and it looks like clouds. It's pretty cool. Makes a good texture on there once it's all collaged down. I make sure that it's stuck down well with that Liquitex matte gel. So then this is when I decide that instead of just like painting the sky or something, I'm going to go ahead and add the same stripy paper so that it coordinates with what's at the top of the other canvas. So I use a piece of it's deli paper. It's translucent. I can see through it to draw around the shape. I put it over the top and then draw around the shape of that horizon line and the girl's head and the doll's head so that I can get the shape of the paper correct. And then I just stick that on. So now my little mini canvas is collaged as well, and it coordinates real well with the rest of the piece. And then, oh yes, I have this piece of ribbon that's also from the package that Ina sent. And it's got blue on one side and green on the other side, and I thought that it added something to my little stream rolling down my mountain. So I glued that on with some tacky glue. It didn't want to stick with just the gel medium. It wanted to pop back up. There was also this butterfly that coordinated really well with the colors, and I thought that maybe I wanted to use it, but it just didn't fit anywhere. So I decided to use these little beads that are in the package, and then this cotton type, kind of like a crocheted lace around the small canvas just to make it stand out a little bit from the background. It makes a nice frame. Had to adjust it a few times to get it to stretch all the way around. It was a little bit short, but it ended up working after I stretched out the corners a little bit. So then I set all that stuff aside to dry, and then I worked a little bit on a few things and forgot to turn on the camera, but it's not noticeable. It's just repetitive stuff anyway. So the first thing that I did was to use my Stabilo all graphite colored pencil and just darken up the edges and add a little shadow around my flowers and around my figure. I like to add shadows around my collaged pieces because it makes them more cohesive. It makes them seem as if they're part of the composition instead of just something that's stuck on. That's something I always do, always, is to add shadows. Then I decided to darken up some of the lines using a microperm 0.01 very fine tipped marker, bullet tip, very fine bullet tip. I can draw the lines around, and that is a permanent type of a pen. I usually use Faber-Castell, but this time I'm using this one because my Faber-Castell fine point got ruined by matte medium at some point. I don't know how that happened. Then to add a little bit of color, I'm using my Neocolor 2 water-soluble crayons and a water tank brush to blend them, adding kind of a rusty brown to the hair, some light yellow to the doll's hair, some skin tone. I end up making her dress and bow kind of a light teal blue, which coordinates with the other colors in the composition. And pink cheeks, all that, that fun stuff. I add a little bit of highlight with a crayon to the flowers as well. That very light pale yellow adds a nice highlight to the yellow flowers, and then I added a pink sort of a highlight to the red flowers. And then I'm of course using my white Posca pen to add highlights, add bright white highlights, and I'm blending those with the water tank brush as well. So then now it's time to work on the main canvas. I had started to draw some lines. I had started to put some of the pencil around the flowers to add the shadows before I remembered that my camera wasn't on. Also, you can see it's now afternoon and the light's shining across my desk in a rather annoying way. So the next thing after I draw in all those black lines is to work on some of the copper foiling, copper flake, copper, what is that stuff called? Gilding? Yeah. Anyway, I use some glue that's, it dries sticky. It's called Tombow Multi, and it dries sticky. So I applied it to my sunshine. I've also have already done the the castle roofs have already been done in the copper gilding, so you can see what it's going to look like. So I applied that to my sunshine, and while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm adding some of the blue crayon, some of the yellow crayon, coloring in the castle walls with some taupe and then some darker gray for shadows. Just continuing my coloring and adding of details, and of course blending all that with my water tank brush, just to get everything looking kind of like if I left it just white and gray, it doesn't stand out against the bright colors of the flowers in the paper. So that stuff has to all be colored as well. Probably some sort of a black and white and gray composition would be interesting too, but for me, it just really needs to be colored. So here's that gilding flake type stuff. It's a sheet of course, copper is my favorite. So I'm now just pressing that down onto the sunshine where that sticky glue is. And then I take a stiff brush and I brush off the excess. Now, something weird happened here. I had put that graphite pencil around the sun, and I had put some water on it. And for some reason, that copper gilding flake wanted to stick. And so I had to spend quite a bit of time burnishing it, trying to get it removed from the paper. And I got most of it off, enough anyway. I ended up having to wet my brush and like really scrape the paper. And then I had to kind of touch up at the top where I had scraped off some of the text paper. But I just put another piece over it, so it wasn't that big a deal. But yeah, I don't know why that happened. That's never happened before. It usually just sticks where the glue is. So I don't know. So I hope you're enjoying this video. If you are, please remember to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment or question, subscribe, share if you want to, and do not forget to go to below the video and click through all the links for the other 5 participants in this hop, because they all had the same stuff as I did, and it's going to be very interesting to find out what they made out of the same collage ephemera that I received. They're from all over the place, so there'll be just all kinds of different interesting, diverse things to look at. So my final things to do were to put on the mini canvas with some foam tape, and then I used these little triangular shaped beads as flowers, and then there was some small seed beads that were kind of a copper color that I glued in the center of each of those to add just another 3D element and to add a few little white flowers scattered through the composition. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm really happy with this project. I think it's cute. You know, you never know what you're going to get in one of these type of situations, and you never know what you're going to make until you make it. So that is it for me, and the close-ups are coming. Thanks. Bye-bye.